everyone. Welcome back again to the Iconist Podcast. Thank you once again for tuning in. And anyone listening, I'm going to make this roundtable really quick because we got a special guest on today. I'm so excited to talk about this episode. So here we go. So first and foremost, you know what it is, right? Like, subscribe, share, rate, review. Don't let the show be an unknown secret. This is the Iconist Podcast. You can find us on everywhere. So we're on YouTube. You can find us on Podbean, and you can find wherever you stream and get your podcast from. You can get it from there also. Also, shout out to Wow Comics. Tell Wes and the guys we said hi. And if you're out in Montreal, check out Check Swings on the South Shore and tell Trevor and the rest of the guys we said hi. That's for sure. And a big shout out to Brandy Ford for her radio station and the writer and the Wit magazine that she does every month. So that's something to look for. We have the link down in our bio, along with A Touch of Grey Comedy, which is myself, Dave Sokolowski, Zolf Ali. Keep your eye out. We're doing shows all over, live, online, the whole 9 yards. You know what to do. And before I forget, I'm rushing through this because I want to have so much time for our guest. The one who makes us look so pretty, the man, the myth, the legend, the one who puts us all together. So if you want to have a podcast like we have on Podbean and you need a logo done or any kind of templates, you got to reach out to one man and one man only. And Rod, who is that man?
J Bird Digital Art.
J Bird Digital Arts, Mr. Jason Reese, thank you so much. And if you tell him that you heard about him here on the Iconist Podcast, he'll give you a discount on any work you need done. So you tell him you say that we say that. Manners make it the man, and here we go. And tonight, we are joined sorry, I'm so excited, I'm just losing my words. One of my good friends in comedy, Mr. Andrew Searles.
Hey, good to be back.
Glad to have you back, Andrew. I hope all is doing well. And before we get into tonight's topic, first and foremost, please tell people once again where they can find you, where you're active. We'll put the links down below for anyone that's looking. It's because we got to share the love.
Yeah, you can find me on, website, andrewsearles.com, Searles, Instagram, Twitter, or X, that it's called, unfortunately. YouTube, I post all my links for videos, upcoming shows. So yeah, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Andrew Searles. Look me up, and then you'll find my stuff there.
Absolutely, that's amazing. And please don't forget that Andrew is what I call international. He is North American comedian. He's not just one region. So you can find him in Canada, you can find him in the States, and he's all over. So please go and check him out. If you want to find me, very simple, Barry3D.com. That's where all my stuff is at. You can't miss it. There we go. Rod, where can we find you?
You can find me on the World Wide Web. You can find me on where you can find me. You can find me on Instagram, yes. I'm on Instagram at Mr. Rod C, MRRODC. You can find me on twitch.tv/DJ Rod C. And you can find me on the world of TikTok at DJ Rod C1. DJ Rod C1. Listen, that's where you can find me. Listen, we're all over there. And listen, shout me out. Let me know that, you followed and you followed from watching the show. I'll hail you up, give you a shout out. We're going to have some fun. All right, listen, tonight is a special night. Woo! I can't even talk. What do we got to do today, Barry? What do we have?
Very simple. When Andrew is on, there's only one thing to do. Live long and prosper. We are talking about, yes! We are talking a Star Trek. It's a Star Trek roundtable discussion, but not just any discussion. The icon is Strange New Worlds on the Iconist Podcast. And not just Strange New Worlds, but one of the most exciting episodes I've seen to date. The crossover of Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I'll let you kick it off because you're excited. You're ready to go.
I'm excited. Okay, first of all, when they announced this on the web, the World Wide Web, I'm like, no. Yeah. And then they did the fan casting, what we do on our show. And they took, and this is what I said all the time, they took the actors that did the voices for Lower Decks and brought them over live.
Yeah. Well, I had read or I seen an interview saying that when apparently Mike McMahon, who's the showrunner, I guess creator as well, when he casted the characters of Boimler and Mariner, the characters look like the actors. So
100%.
so when you, I guess when you do a crossover, it's like you're not gonna. I mean, I don't think a crossover was ever thought of when in the initial concept. I think that was just, yeah, let's just create a character, and the character was gonna look like the actor. You know, I
Right.
think it was a decision that paid off in the long run. Where I guess when this crossover thing came up, they were like, they sound like the character because it's done by them, and they look like their character because it is them. So it worked out well. Yeah, it made sense. You know.
Oh
If
my
it
God.
walks like a duck,
So
looks like a duck.
Yeah.
It's a duck.
it might actually be a duck. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Rob,
Well,
It was
what was your
it was
impression?
good. It
Yeah.
was definitely a first impression.
Mhm.
Hearing about it was when they first announced it at the Comic Con last year, the San Diego Comic Con. It was one of those things where it's like, okay, like we've seen crossovers in the past,
Right.
like the TOS crew crossing over with TNG, then the TNG crossing over with PS9, and vice versa. So I think we've seen them in the past, but I think because this was a cartoon crossing over into real life, that's where people are like,
How are they going to do this?
yeah, like how is this gonna work?
That was the greatest mystery that they kept hidden
Yeah.
for so long. Because I know for myself, same way, I'm listening and I'm like, okay, this is the anime, real life, anime, real life.
Yeah.
How are we gonna do this? And like you said, knowing that you know who the actors are, and you realize that the representation is practically drawn on them, I'm like, that could be a way. But then how the story goes. But I have to say, I was overwhelmed and waiting for season 2 to start.
Yeah.
Waiting and finding online. So which episode is this? Which 7? Which date?
Yeah.
Let's stick it on the wall.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
I think this was definitely I would say this is the episode of the season that people were waiting for. Like, yeah, when you see the lineup of all the episodes of like what's gonna happen this season, I think most people were like, okay, but I think this was like, I would say this is the first Star Trek episode in a long time that people were anticipating.
Right.
Yes.
I know we were excited for Strange New Worlds, but like, I would say in terms of like an episode where it's like, oh, like we already know, like for a pilot's one thing, but it's like, I would say next to the beginning of, I would say the pilot of like Picard season 1 or Strange New World season 1.
Right.
Like this was an episode that exactly. So I would say they did a good job of going from the cartoon perspective to jumping into the real world. Like I think what they did was the most logical. Like they didn't go like, oh, let's show these characters in real life and then crossing over into real life. It was like, no, show them from the cartoon because that's their perspective.
Where you know they're from.
Right. That's the medium we know them in.
Yeah, exactly. The medium. And then see them cross over into the Strange New Worlds medium. So I think it sounded like one of those things where it's like, this sounds very hard, but it was also the simplest course of action is the easiest. So
yeah. Exactly. You know that saying there, it's like, it's so crazy it might just work.
Yeah.
With when you're hearing about it, you're like, okay, fine, how they're going to cross it over. And then you see the story unfold. And I think that this crossover really works well for both shows, in my opinion, right? Because Strange New Worlds is more lighthearted generally than, or more less serious or more tense than some of the other series we've had in the past, right? Like Picard, he's very tense, quirky, was always something going on. Right, Pike's style.
Everybody was serious except for this one.
Yeah.
Well, they're serious and ish, but I mean, what I mean by that is like Pike as a captain, out of all the captains I've seen so far, he seems to be the most laid back captain.
Super laid back.
Yeah.
Super laid back. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like Rod, I know we were talking on the phone the other day, and you said that one of the people walked out of the episode after walked out of the ready room when they're having a celebration where they had the ambassador, Klingon ambassador, and I know the different episode. And No one would walk out of Picard's room when he's trying to
100%.
walk out of Picard's room when he's right. Picard be like,
Mhm.
number one,
Yeah.
beam them
That's
back.
a show.
Worf,
And
I need you to
the
go
funny
and
thing is-
drag them back.
Drag them back. But you see, the great thing about it is that you also show the different layers of the evolution of the Federation.
Mhm.
That
Yes.
if the closest you would say, although Trip from Enterprise might be one that might be walkout type of scenario, but he was still staying firm. But then you say, okay, we're following discipline, and again, Pike is very not loose, he's still stern, but they have a very, this is a family unit. We're working together to accomplish it. We're 5 years. This is still brand new to us. We got to work together. Let's just, attitude and stuff like, just everybody's ego is put aside. We got to work together to, to go forward, because this is still new to us.
Yeah.
Kirk then already has, as you can see, Kirk is still there, but Kirk's episodes, TOS, again, it's a little bit slightly more mature than Pike. Then you come to Picard.
Yeah.
Another 100 years later, more mature. So it will definitely say that no one would have the audacity. I know we're jumping to the next episode 8, but no one would have the audacity to walk out of a meeting ready room on Picard. No, you're gone. Like, just consider yourself, getting demoted. You're getting court-martialed. You're out. Cisco? No one would do that.
Yeah.
So
that's my one issue. I have a few issues with Strange New Worlds is great, but there's a couple issues where I'm just like, they need to work this out. Pike is one of the issues where it's like he doesn't have the teeth. He doesn't have his teeth yet. Like when you look at Cisco in season 1 and 2, and when you look at Cisco in season 3 when he grows the beard out, like the goatee out, you see like Cisco grows some teeth out, and he doesn't fuck around. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but
it's all good, man. But yeah, you're right.
He turns into Hawk. He turns into Hawk.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is funny because when Avery started on DS9, they told him shave the goatee because it's going to be too similar to Hudson Hawk.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the show got established, the character got established, then okay, fine, now you could shave your head and grow your beard, the goatee out. But with Pike, and there's been 2 situations. The first situation was in the first season when they're trapped on the icy planet with like the ship. They're on the ship, and then the Gorn were kind of popping out of people's bodies, like that alien-esque episode. And like George Kirk and Spock get into a little tiff. And like Pike was just sitting there listening. And I'm like, bro, someone's questioning your officers and like yelling at them, like, put your foot down and be like, don't ever question my officer, or that's an order, follow it, And even in this episode, that just passed recently, where, Ortegas gets up at the dinner, and then she says something and just walks out. Like, the second she stood up, Kirk, Picard, Cisco, Janeway would have been like, Lieutenant? And that would have been enough. That would have been yo, watch your pace. You could be upset, 100%. But watch your tone, And with Pike, it's been 2 situations. I'm just like, bro, like, how establish a chain of command, bro? Like,
well, this is what I feel. Go ahead, Baron. Go ahead.
Sorry, Rod. So I have a theory, right? Very short.
Yeah.
And I think they needed someone. So Pike is probably like this because, and it's even the writing of the show. I'm not criticizing. I mean, I'm enjoying it. Season 1 really was focused on Pike, his journey, and him finding out what's going to happen to his future. And then he kind of, because at first, the very first couple of episodes, you see he was more stern, and then he kind of, got to enjoy life more.
Yeah, exactly.
You need Pike to be the way he's at right now.
Yeah.
Because we know Kirk is a little bit of a screw up.
Yeah.
And Pike is the only person that's willing to give Kirk a second chance if you look at the whole big picture in the timeline, right? If Kirk wouldn't get a second chance with Picard, he wouldn't get a second chance with Cisco or any of the other captains, I think, or Janeway, right?
Yeah.
But with Pike would like, I see something in him. let me work with him a little bit more. I'll give him a second chance. You know, when everyone's like, oh, you should give him a second chance. Oh, because that's how he is right now. And that's what brought me to that, like the crossover episode. Lord Dex couldn't cross over with some of the other Star Trek entities that we've seen so far because the captains would have been a little bit too stiff and it would have gone counterproductive to what they do on lower decks. You know, you wouldn't have Boiler doing the Boiler run with Kirk or Picard or Cisco around. You'd be like, what? Find him in the quarters. Put him in a break.
Even his yelling, even his shriek. Like, no one would shriek on any of the Enterprise. Like, you know, you get startled like that. No one go, no one would do a Boiler scream.
Yeah.
Anywhere else.
Yeah.
So
I hear what you're saying, Andrew, but at the same time, I mean, he's got to put his foot down, and I agree with you because I mean, there's a couple episodes I'm like, come on, son.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just saying for this crossover episode, it worked.
It worked because both shows are a lot lighter than the previous incarnations. Yeah. So that's why it worked. Yeah.
Right. And that's, you know, and that's what got me excited. Okay, one, it got together. I saw it work out. I see the opening when they did it. The opening was done as a cartoon with Pike's voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's the little nuances, the little Easter eggs they were dropping, you know? Comment about Pike's jawline and hair.
Yeah.
Which is, everyone knows the hair online. It's always comments. That's, you know, even when he does interviews, the actor does interviews, they always talk to him about his hair. So crossing that over, you know, the reactions that Boiler has and Boiler not really being mindful because he's fanboying.
Yeah.
You know, going through what he's going through. And then Jonathan Frakes is directing the episode. And then what kills me.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
He's in the officer's room. He sees the saddle for the horse. Boiler looks around, touches it, picks his leg up, and what does he say? Riker. With Jonathan Frakes directing the episode. So that means he was there when that came up.
Yeah. You know, it was an improv. It was I
was about to say
impromptu line.
Yeah.
That wasn't scripted. Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Frakes, being the director he is, said,
yeah.
He didn't say cut. He didn't say nothing. He left it in the episode. He probably giggled his ass off and said,
probably,
keeping it. Right? But it was true to what Boiler would do.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, when he was even fleshed out as a person out of the cartoon world, he was still recognizable as Boiler. He didn't like him, his mannerisms. So you're voicing a character, but now the way they drew the character in Lower Decks, he still, as an actor, he emulated those, you know, physical humor. So when you see Boiler running in real life, you're like, yeah, that's the Boiler run.
Yeah.
When he's like,
yeah, exactly.
The facial expressions, like he got it. He absolutely got it. I think even with Jonathan Frakes, I don't know who else would be able to direct the episode as well as they did. Like Jonathan Frakes directs like really great episodes for the genre of Star Trek.
Yeah. Frakes has been, he's been directing since like season 3 of TNG. So it's like, and he's directed, I think, pretty much he's done, pretty sure, I think he's done every series, like Next Gen, DS9 Voyager, Enterprise, you know, so all up to Discovery up to now. So it's like, so he knows. And like a lot, he's also done the movies, but he also has done episodes where it's like very serious, but also like lighthearted. So, if he's gonna know his way, if anyone knows their way around Trek and is also a director, it's Frakes.
No. It would be
exactly. So, Rod, what about you? What parts for that crossover episode stood out for you?
My gosh, like there's multiple. This is the hard thing about it. There's multiple. Like you can just say when he came through the portal, he's like, you all look very realistic. That's a good cut to show. He knows something's off in the sense like. I may be more 2-dimensional versus 3-dimensional. You got a little bit too realistic, you know, computer and program. And this is real. You know what? There's so many smaller nuances that Morley went through. And again, bringing Mariner when she came in. And again, now you're getting a live Mariner interacting with a live Boiler. And you're like, God, like all the dreams, everything is checking off properly. I'll go back to what you're saying in regards to Barry. Like, you know, it's like he knew how to do the nuances and act that character out. Technically, it's him. But what I've also liked is that since you would know from last year that you're planning to do a live action, you now have time when you're doing your voiceover for the character to actually be able to act it out to get yourself more familiar. So when the time comes, you're just like butter walking through. So yeah, there was a lot of it's
it's
fully
a lot to
cute,
unpack,
fully
right?
cute. Grappling hooks. Come on.
I think for me, like I said, one of the funniest lines for me throughout that whole episode was, where you had the the Strange New World crew saying, "How come they talk so loud?" And they're saying, Lord Screw is like, everyone talks so slow.
Yeah.
Even that was like, thank you for stating the obvious.
Yeah. I think there was one line between, like, I think it was between, I don't know if it's between Una and Spock, where they're like, they make very specific what do they call it? References, yeah. And it's like, that's what they do. Yeah.
That's it. So for you, Andrew, for that episode, what moment stood out for you in that episode that you were like, okay, that was gold, or maybe I didn't see it coming, but it was nice to see her.
I think I think the fact that they just took a cartoon character and made them human. It wasn't overly complicated. It was, and I read some of the comments online of like, well, are they going to see themselves as cartoon and they see that and like they see like it's like Mariner would see the Pike as cartoons and Pike would see them as real people. Like it's going to be like that, right? Because we've seen Riker, we've seen all those characters in Lower Decks, and they're not like, oh, I was a humanoid and now I'm a cartoon. Like they're not gonna. It's just they're just seeing it. We're just seeing it through a cartoon lens. They just see it as they're existing in the same universe. So I like how simplistic it was. It was just take these characters, make them human, and just throw them in. So it was that was cool. I think the interesting part between the two of them, the two series merging, was the fact that other series in the franchise, when they crossed over in the same time period. You know, like when you see like McCoy and Encounter at Farpoint, they're existing in the same timeline. Versus this time, they're crossing over. They're crossing over 130 years apart. So there was no like, oh, I'm part of the Federation. Hey, well, how's this? How's that? It's like, no, we can't say much because we're talking to the past, So it's like they interacted, but they kept their interactions as minimal as possible, or as Boimler tried to, but it didn't always work.
He was fanboying. I mean, look. So Boimler comes over, and I get it. The simplicity works. The writing was great. The direction was great. And the actors, all the people, I think, banged it out the park. And not only did we get a crossover episode, we got a time travel episode at the same time that they were dealing with.
Exactly,
and as fans, we know both sides what's supposed to happen. We know as fans what Pike is supposed to experience in the future. He hasn't gotten there yet, and we know where Lower Decks is coming from. And even when they're looking, I can't remember the name, the alien race there, and it's like, how do we track him? It's like, I can track him. It's like, and right away, like Pike is like, no, you've done enough. And it's like, well, I can track him. How? Well, I can do the computer, and it's like, but we're not supposed to see it. But y'all can just turn around.
Yeah.
Right. And at first, it's like, no, we can't.
Can we?
And it's like, and there's where Pike should have made that decision. It's like, you can turn around, and his number one would have said, well, can we? And Pike would have been like, yeah, we can, and we are. Like, there's where he should have put a little bit more, oomph to it.
Yeah.
Right? And then you see them all backwards, not looking, and he's playing with the wires. It's like, oh, yeah, we found him. Everything good. And Boiler, of course, tangled up in wires.
And this is the part I was going to say. Yeah. That was a great thing of just seeing, like, actually, no, I was saying that was a great part of, like, seeing him, subtly just putting in that Boiler will still be Boiler, still get himself wrapped up, doing something should be as simple enough to be done. Boiler still does a Boiler, and he's still wrapped up. And you can clearly see that his foot's hanging here, his arms wrapped. Like, give me a second. That's the typical. And I'm like, all these small little check marks was
Yeah.
just beautiful to add on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Uh,
that's what I said. The voice, even when you had the other characters, the other two they hang out with, and it's like, Tendi, and it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
when they got back to their own time, right?
mhm.
Jump ahead. I know we're going back and forth, but they got back to their own time. And it's like, oh yeah, your grandmother was on this thing. How do you know my grandmother's name was Tendi? Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the things where it's like the little icing on the cake where it's just like, okay, like those are the little sparkles that just be like, okay, that kind of makes it stand out more. And yeah, they did a great job. They did a really good job of like
Listen,
making sure that like everything was intact.
I'll tell you one crazy thing that killed me with extra laughter. I saw the episode last week on Crave before it normally comes on. I saw it on Crave. I saw it back to back. Watched it. I saw it, finished, watched it again. Why is it now that I said, okay, I got to go to bed. I'm going to sleep, whatever the case may be. I got to work in the morning. Still on TV. I'm seeing Star Trek. Why am I seeing Star Trek, the original, and I'm seeing the Squire of Gothas, which is with Trillin, the Q.
Yeah.
And I was like saying, wait a minute, didn't it that just said holy Q? And I say, no, don't talk about the Q. It's too early for them. Well, they had Trillian from that, that time they went to the planet when the Squires of the Goth. And I was dying of laughter that it just, by the movement and the shifting of the worlds and the moon aligning. I just finished this and just referenced, and I'm like, oh, here's the episode right here.
Yeah.
Like I said, there was so much. I think it was like almost like, too much for the senses at time. And I mean that in a good way. Like, every second there was something to draw on, no matter what, be it history and be it big moments, small moments, and with the characters. And even when you think they've got it right, Boiler is about to go home and he's like, okay, we've got it. I'm going home. And he does a nice speech and the look off. And I was like, and then Mariner comes crashing through and she's like, Boiler, I'm here to save you.
Landing on me. Typical Mariner.
I didn't need saving. I was good. No, you needed saving. I did it. And they had their normal banter, right? Where Mariner thinks that she is always got to be the hero. And of course, messes things up even further. But I didn't realize that they would fan boy or fangirl over certain people in there. Like, I didn't realize maybe I missed it, that Mariner was a huge Yura fan.
Yeah.
From Lower Decks.
Yeah.
So when she's sitting there watching her, it's like,
she's like, yeah. And then Voldemort has this crush on Una.
Number one, Una. Yeah.
Okay.
That was another wonderful thing.
Now that was how they delivered that. Is like, oh, he has a pinup in his bunk. He had a pinup of me. Okay, you know what? This is weird, and I'm leaving. And then the number one, she leaves only to find out that her picture is a recruiting picture and not a pinup per se sexy picture, like how it was perceived at first. And this is why Boiler was always kind of like, oh my god, he's the ultimate for him.
Yeah.
And when he's back on his ship, Cap, the number one of Lower Decks, is walking by, sees the poster, and is like, that's the best looking woman in Starfleet ever. And I'm like, oh, touche, because the voice for that character
Jerry,
is her husband.
Yeah. So many mind blowing those are the little moments you're just like, it'll go over your head, but then when you know what the connections are, you're just like, oh, that's why.
Right? Like I said, WandaVision as a Marvel series was good if you're a hardcore fan of Marvel movies, Marvel comics, right? If you're a casual watcher or you've just been watching the movies, then a lot of stuff that happened in WandaVision is going to go over the regular, the casual fan's head. And I'm not making that as a deep cut on anyone. It's really, you're not going to pick up on certain things. Like when the helicopter, when WandaVision shows up and it has a number on there, that number is the first appearance of Avengers, so A57 of the Vision in the Avengers. That's how they put that in there. But as a hardcore fan, you have to know. Yeah. Same thing, I think, with Lower Decks crossover Strange New Worlds. Yeah. You got to be a hardcore fan. Well, you got to be a fan of both series. And then you have to be a hardcore fan to understand the connections of the actors, the voice actors, of everyone behind the scenes, of why it has that much importance to it.
Yeah.
On that, I think majority of Star Trek fans are deep into the lore. So it was where WandaVision was kind of playing more for the fans. I mean, the hardcore fans. I think Star Trek and just the universe in general, anytime you get in there, it's everyone knows more than you think. I mean, people learn Klingon to speak Klingon in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're more educated. They're more informed, right? I mean, I'm not sure if you know him. There's a comedian here in Toronto named Patrick Hay.
Oh, I know Patrick. Yeah.
Okay, right. So Patrick was on one episode on Discovery,
Yeah, he was
playing a
Vulcan.
Vulcan.
Yeah.
Right. And I ran into Patrick like 2 weeks ago. Like I saw him when he just did the episode after, and then I ran into him 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, "Hey man, how's everything going?" He goes, "Dude, I've been getting letters nonstop from the fans in a positive light." He goes, "I showed up on one episode." He goes, "I really wasn't a hardcore Trekkie before," but he goes, "I didn't realize the amount of love the fans have for all these characters." He goes, "I've been getting letters nonstop," and he's not talking like one or two letters. Yeah, right. And he had like one line.
I didn't. Yeah, because I was like, I don't even know if he spoke, but if he did, it was like it wasn't a big,
Very quick.
like a big line. Yeah, it was like very must have been like a 1 or 2 word thing.
Yeah, the camera went on him twice, and I'm like, "Oh, and it's Patrick!" Because I was watching, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "That's so cool." I know his shoulders and chin anywhere.
Jeez, yeah. When I saw him, I was like, "Oh, that's Harry." Yeah.
Yeah. And he got fan mail. I'm happy
Good
for
for
him.
him.
But one episode, and
Yeah.
he's getting fan mail. One episode. So that's to show you the passion the fans have. So the odd person might say, "Well, I don't get the reference," but I probably like what 1 out of 50.
Yeah.
Okay,
Jeez.
there's 49 people going.
Yeah, exactly. I know who that person is. I know what that link is.
I know what this means.
Mm.
So hold on. Would you want to see another crossover episode with this crew, these two crews again, or maybe with a different crew?
No. Keep it the way it is. One-offs are always the best. Like
Right.
keep it like it's like sequels, like sometimes a sequel comes out and like it does a better job, and sometimes it's like, nah, should have left it at one. And I feel between Discovery's wrapping up. So I mean, like between Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks, I mean, I would say they're better off. You had your one crossover. Let's leave it at that. Let's not get too greedy.
Yeah. Okay.
But if they had if there was a second episode, and it's gonna be great, then yeah, do it. But I'm just saying, don't get greedy now.
Don't get greedy. Okay. And now here's another question. Now that we know that the actors do look like the people they're portraying on Lower Decks, would you want to see not even a crossover? Would you want to see another live action episode?
I would. It would be cool to see a live action episode of Lower Decks.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That'd be interesting. That would be just to kind of mix it up, do something different for them, Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to see what a physical model of the Cerritos would look like on screen, or like to see what the bridge of the Cerritos would look like on screen. If they'll have the budget to pull it off, especially in Paramount's position these days, or Paramount's not doing too financially well. I don't know if they'll be able to do it, but it would be interesting.
Okay. All right. What about yourself, Rod? Would you want to see a live action version of Lower Decks, be it if it's episode, or even put it even further, even a movie? Because a lot of the Star Trek stuff seems to start on the small screen and gets to the big screen at some point.
Yeah.
That actually is not a bad idea. Like I'm there thinking when you brought that question to Andrew, and I'm thinking like, would we want another crossover? And I'm like, it took him to the second season to have this crossover. And I'm thinking if they did, let it be the reverse, and which will probably be easier cost-wise to a certain degree, have the actors come in and be cartoon, but it's like 2 seasons from now. If long last, that both seasons can, keep up and running around that time, let something happen that is now Strange New Worlds goes to the future, maybe to help out. No, anyway, that's another. Let me not try to plot no idea right now, but that could be something to think about. Something to think about. But now that you're saying about a live show of Lower Decks, yeah, actually, I would like that. I would like that a lot.
Yeah.
Because that's something that'll be very interesting to see. Let me see Tindy. Let me see Rutherford. You know what I mean? In their full, human form,
Yeah.
be it, and go from there. That would be hilarious.
Right.
Yeah,
So you know what? I
I
also
think it'd be
saw.
a cool idea.
I like it, but what I saw online was someone was saying how tall there are people in the future.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not sure if you guys saw that because
No.
every time you watch Lower Decks, you see how tall Boiler is
Yeah. Yeah.
compared to the rest of the the staff
100%.
on
Yeah.
Lower
Mm.
Decks. And then when he
Yes.
came over to Strange New Worlds, everyone's looking up to him because the actor is tall himself. So
Yeah.
you're like, wait a minute, if he's that tall, we know Mariner's shorter than him. And
Yes.
there's a security officer. How tall
Yeah.
is the security
Shaq.
officer? Is he
Yeah.
8 feet
Shrek's, I
tall?
think, or
Shaq.
yeah.
Shaq's, yeah.
Shaq's,
Shaq's,
that's
how
Shaq.
tall is he?
Yeah, because I think in the interview, in the Ready Room interview, that was brought up the height thing. So I think even Quaid said, he's like, yeah, I mean, Shax is probably like 8 foot tall or 9 feet tall. It's like that just wouldn't make sense for in any capacity. So,
Right.
but that's
Ransom as
that's
well.
exactly, yeah, Ransom. So it's like I think that's the liberties of having a cartoon where it's like, yeah, you can kind of bend the rules of physics to a certain extent, or it's like, well, you're not bending the rules. You're just kind of like, yeah, that's just
Different
that's how tall
proportions,
these characters are going to be, you know. But
Mhm.
then when you bring the real world, then it's like, okay, we gotta do
Gotta
some
work
math
with
and
Yeah. Some math.
Well, you
Yeah.
had Saru from like Discovery, and he's I mean, that character, and he's tall, right? So
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple of lifts in someone's shoe and camera
Yeah.
angles, a soapbox or whatever, and then they're good to go. It'd be
Yeah,
interesting, but it's like, did we get taller in the future? I hope so, because if that's the case, I'm gonna freeze myself like Fry and show up 3,000 years in the future, and hopefully I can get some height.
Yeah.
Don't judge me. Don't judge me. I got plans.
No judgment.
As I said, I'm just excited about the episode. I like the crossover. I liked where they're going with it. I think it couldn't happen on another series, or if it did happen on another series, it would lose its flavor. Somewhere along the lines, it would have lost the flavor. Right?
I think, you know what? I think it probably could have worked on I think it could have worked on another show. Like, I think the fact that both shows are very lighthearted is fun.
Yeah.
But I think, Deep Space Nine had a couple episodes where they just kind of cut loose, like Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite, like that was a fun episode. So it'd be cool to see, it would be funny to see a character like Mariner and Boimler, go head to head with like Riker and Picard, just because I think that in itself is funny, like where Boimler does something silly, Picard just sits there like, excuse me. I think that in itself, because it's two worlds colliding, right? That's where the comedy is.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And Mariner, she knows her stuff.
Yeah.
She's just
100%.
a rule breaker. But she knows it. She knows Starfleet protocol A to Z. She comes off like she doesn't care, but she could have been a captain, I'm sure, in a couple of years if she just didn't.
Yeah.
She focused.
Yeah. That's the one thing I don't like about Mariner is the fact that she knows her stuff. She knows it. Like she could be she could easily be on the first contact missions and not even the second tier Federation Starfleet, but like first tier serving on ships, commander, lieutenant commander, whatever. She just doesn't apply herself. And I'm just for me, that hurts me because I'm just like, you're so much better than this. Like, why? Like, ugh.
No, but the thing is, if you look at it, this is now, you're looking from a military type of standpoint. You have someone who has a potential.
Yeah.
We all know some people who have a potential and they purposely don't want to apply themselves. I got all the rules. I know how, until she's like, again, we've seen episodes where she's saying, oh, I know the rules. I know what I'm doing and everything along that line. Mm-hmm. Until she had a conversation with Uhura, like saying, yeah, I know protocol. How do you think I get around? I got to know the rules, how the game is played to work around it. Until she said that, I'm like, that made so much sense because, there's someone who is, who probably in a particular type of feeling realizing like, yeah, if I stay the course, I know I'm going to have the trajectory and I'm going to be great. But I'm like, yeah, let me just use the rules against them. In that sense, you just use it to my benefit. And that's what's, some people won't think along that line. Yeah. It is great. To me, it's actually interesting that you have a character who is using those type of fundamentals and using it to their advantage and everybody can clearly see you're using the advantages to you, but you're still coming out on top, and you're not
Mm-hmm.
really getting yourself in so much trouble. How do
Yeah.
you do it? I know the ways, and
Yeah.
that's to me is very interesting when you come from that angle that they're approaching from that way. So I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah.
You're right, because you nailed that on the head, because she knows the rules. She knows the stuff inside out. She knows first contact. She's been to different planets all over the time. So when season 1, her and Boiler beamed down to a planet, she's like, "Don't do this, do that." Oh, how do you know?
Right.
And the whole time he's there trying to quote protocol like by black and white, and she's like, "No. I've been on a planet before. I've dealt with their people. This is how they like to trade. This is like they do." And so she knows all this stuff. And her mom and dad are both on starships and Starfleet, and he's I'm just curious, one, is she the only child? We don't know. Maybe she has a brother or sister. They never mention it. Not
I think there was one episode where I think it was mentioned.
Oh, really?
Not sure though.
I don't know.
See, you'd be my go-to guy to ask that question.
Easy, good, definitely. I'll just say to you what you were saying before, Barry. You made me think of it. Her parents are, basically she's an army brat. She's a military brat. She has the ability to go all around. That's why when you hear like she's done trading with Riker, and Deanna's like, "What do you mean? Don't talk about that. Don't talk about that. Like, just pour on." I was like, "Yo, how would you, as an ensign? Yes, you keep putting yourself in the position that you don't move up in rank, but you've been very, your foot is very hot. You moved around. You know people. You know how to interact. That's it's a skillful quality that I think is a build up probably towards the end of the season when they, not this season, but when they decide to say, fan it out, she's going to have to accept her responsibilities and just own up like, all right, so I guess I'm going to be the next best captain. I have all the skills. I can't shy away from it any longer.
Yeah.
So I feel it's like, it's one of those things that
though, like if you look at the end of the last season, she and her mom came to understanding where she's like, "Okay, Mom, I'm going to take things a little bit more serious and stop pushing back as much." Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're molding her that way. I mean, Boiler wants to get there, and he's brown nosing so hard. And Mariner, it just comes to her second nature. Even when her friends find out, it's like, "Wait a minute, your mom is the captain of our ship?" Yeah, whatever. I'm like, please say something for me. Put in a good word. You don't need it. So I get you. So that's I know you got your points there with Strange New Worlds, and that's your point with Mariner on Lower Deck. So what's your point on Strange New World? Let's go back to that a second, Andrew. You're saying there's some things you wish that Pike would do, and this is where I'll agree with you, because season 1 was all Pike. Season 2, so far,
he's barely
everybody else but Pike.
Yeah, he's kind of relegated to the background. Yeah,
he's not even episode 1. Episode 1 is like, "What's going on?" I'm going to the fort to get back my number 1. You guys hold fort. And that was it. He was in the episode for 5 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, granted, like, I know it's season 2, so it's like it's still very early. Like these shows could run like 5 or 6 or 7 seasons. Mm-hmm. So I think my issue is I want Pike to kind of I want Pike to grow some teeth. Like to have like a little bit more like, like also, I guess I'll circle back to this as well. Okay, so I'll mention that. Okay, cool. So the other thing I want to mention was Pike is one of the best captains in Starfleet. Like there's a medal named after him. So like you got to do some major things to be recognized and have a medal named after you. Yes. I have not seen anything in season 1 or season 2 that makes me go, "Oh, that's why Pike is Pike." Like
right.
We've seen Picard do some dope stuff. We've seen Kirk. We've seen Cisco. None of them have medals, but Pike does. So I want to see things that I'm like, that's why Pike is that's where he gets. I mean, granted, he probably got it named after him for like the incident of where he gets placed in the chair. Maybe that's where the medal is named after him. Yeah,
but I'd be ashamed if that's his crowning moment. You would hope it would be something prior to that, right?
Something bigger. Yeah,
of course. You're right, because I mean, look, Kirk is known for beating the training right? That no one could beat, because
Yeah,
Kirk,
Kobayashi Maru. Yeah, yeah.
Kobayashi, thank you.
Mhm.
Kobayashi Maru, like he did, but he's known because he's the only person that beat it,
Yeah.
right? Coming out the academy. I'm like, okay, that's it. Card, he had a season named after him. Not
Yeah.
even Star Trek. It was just called Picard. 3 seasons that wrapped up the storylines that they
Yeah.
left somewhat open in Star Trek: The
Hmm.
Next Generation.
Yeah.
That's to show you the influence Picard has, right? And
Yeah.
his lifelong thing, and it referenced back to movies.
Yeah.
Lower Decks, you could see Mariner kind of, all right, it's still early. She's a new character, kind of fleshing it out the way. But Pike is an established character.
Yeah.
As you put it, he's got a medal named after him. He's supposed to
Yeah.
be the captain,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's-
And
who's saying
yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, right? Like
Yeah.
his name carries weight.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I haven't seen
Not yet.
enough of him. And
Exactly. Yeah.
dude, most I see him is always in his quarters. Okay.
Yeah. So that's
100%.
the one thing I want to see in the future. Where it's just like, I want to see Pike. Pike's got to pull some things that rivals Picard and Kirk and Janeway and Cisco, where it's like, okay, that's why people call back to you because of this, because of that, So
Yeah.
that's one thing I want to see.
I feel it's gonna happen because I'm looking at it. If you look at the other shows and everything along that line, when there have been always, showing, they're trying to develop the characters and everything like that. They always try to. You'll have one person who'll have a spot, like have an episode like
Yeah.
Data, you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
they'll come back, whatever the case may be. I'm thinking that because the scenario, if you look at it from this standpoint, we know for sure there's a allotted timeline, like with Star Trek, with Next Generation, with DS9 per se. They're building a story, and they keep building the story. This one, we know for sure. We already know the end.
Yeah.
He ends up in the chair.
Yeah.
Now, how far are we going to do that? Are we going to have 3 or 4 or 5 seasons? And then, okay, this is the last season. Now we're going to go towards the chair. So I think now they're just basically saying, first season was all about Pike. I think the second season, yes, is going to be on all the supporting characters and just give them light, give them some ability to have some light, because they are, as you can tell, they're really flushing them out a little bit more sterner than we've seen in any other series. So I'm thinking that they're just going to maybe this season might be a touch of everybody, and we'll just rotate them and bring them back. Because again, also when you realize, when Bornley came on and he passed by Ortega, hey, Ortega, you're the war hero. We didn't even get to understanding where that particular title comes from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think they're gonna flesh this out. Maybe this whole season we may have to, I say bare our teeth, but we may not get a lot of Pike in this particular season.
No, I don't think
maybe towards the end. Maybe yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe the last half or the last quarter, maybe, just to build us up into the third season, which might be center back about Pike. But I think they're just going to use this opportunity that let's build on all the secondary characters while we can, because we technically know this show does have an end date, and the end date is when he's in the chair.
Right.
Versus we can write it in, and if we never knew Pike was going to end in the chair, if it happened, that'll be the first time we're all like, oh my gosh, why did they do that? And we will, they can draw out that storyline as long as possible, but we know at certain point he's going to end in the chair. We all know he's in the chair. Like Marlon said, right.
Yeah, no, but
I think it's good that they're going to end him in the chair. I like the fact that, because at one point, I think some people were saying, oh, maybe he'll change his destiny, and maybe he'll end up in the chair. I'm like, no, he has to end in the chair.
No, he has to.
He has to.
Because that's the timeline. You're changing. No. He's got to end in the chair to be on the planet. And that's what I was going to say. And to your point, Andrew, and to yours also, Rod, right? We know he has to end in the chair. Yeah. 2, he has put in such a loyalty with his crew, especially Spock, because Spock defies Kirk to get him back to the planet.
Yeah.
Okay. Spock. Now we're talking, even though Spock's going through a range of emotions, he's having some marital issues. Spock defies Kirk, right? Like Pike saved Kirk and trained Kirk, and Kirk learned from him. And of course, Kirk being Kirk, and then learning from Pike, you're learning from one of the greats. And then your second in command, your main science officer, steals the Enterprise to bring a guy in a wheelchair to a planet.
Yeah.
What happens between what happens between Pike and Spock that makes that loyalty? I haven't seen it yet.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's got to be the moment. Something has to happen.
Yeah.
For him to say, no matter what, Captain, I'll always be there for you. No, it's okay, Spock. No, I'll always be there for you.
Yeah.
Okay, and then do some Vulcan ritual, meaning I'm bonded to you for life, like Chewbacca with Han Solo. Like, it's got to be something huge, because for a man to turn out, especially Spock, forget half human, not, he's Vulcan. And the first thing he's going to do is say, well, the logical course for me to do is steal the spaceship, get my old captain, break him out of the medical center, fly him across the galaxy, and beam him down to this planet. And even when Kirk saw it, I was like, you stole the spaceship? Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, what that bond has to be so incredibly strong for even Spock to be like, I'm going to break the rules to help this guy.
100%.
Like,
my point, Spock is really by the book. And for Spock to break the rules, something has to happen. And I haven't seen it yet.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's
stuff like that. There's definitely that. Yeah. I want to see that. I'd love to see, again, this circles back to the captains of what Kirk, Picard, and Sisko's and the others would allow.
Mm-hmm.
And Discovery does this as well, and I am not a fan of it. Too much little back talk from the officers. There's no formality. There's no respect. Too many officers like to talk back, and I'm just like, no.
Okay, no. Again, this is still raw. This is still the raw early days. This is where they're still trying to find themselves. Again, Prime Directive is not even established as yet.
But Prime Directive or not, even today, if you're in the Army or Navy or anything, you talk back to an officer to be like,
100%.
I'm like,
100%.
yo, like, you're gonna be smart. Get that mop bucket right now and to go clean.
100%.
Okay, 100%. Gentlemen, let me say this to you right now. You see, first of all, we are looking at Star Trek from what we know it to be. You break up the whole thing about the Army. Of course, the day and age has advanced. We are 3 West Indian men raised by West Indian parents. We know the word back talk does not exist in our house.
Yeah.
Understand?
No, it does exist.
Day and age,
it does exist. It does exist as your final word and your final.
Exactly.
Before you lose consciousness.
It's your last action. It's your last action.
It's your last action.
Right,
you know that.
Suicide mission.
You know about it.
You're
brave.
Right. So we know, but in this day and age, we know we always had, people, let's just say, of a lighter complexion of us who do back talk a lot. And they think they're okay. And especially now the younger generation talks like there's no tomorrow because that's what they do. So what they need to do is get back to some of their West Indian roots, their inner West Indian roots, right? I mean, Sisko was clear West Indian. There's no question about that. It's like, Sisko, what?
Yeah.
We good.
Yeah.
we all right. We all right. Kirk, do you think you can tell me? It's like, oh, Kirk really corner sometimes. No, I'm not messing with Kirk. Kirk will find a way to get me fired, and I won't even see it coming. So I get your point. There's too much talk within the crews. Yeah, they know better. The captain's got to be more assertive, and he's not.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
They're too casual, and between Michael, Saru, and Pike, it's just it just irks me because I'm just like, and no, whether it's military or Navy or Starfleet or local police, would that back talk be allowed? And if it was said, then it's like, okay, the mission's done. Come into my ready room. We're gonna have a little chat.
100%. Oh, 100%.
Like there's one episode there's one episode of the episode Gambit in TNG where Data's in command and they're trying to find Riker and Picard, and then like, okay, we'll set a course for this place, and Worf is like, finally, and Data's like, come to my ready room, and as soon as they walk in, he goes, Picard would never allow that shit. if you can't perform your job, I want to find someone else. And that to me that's professionalism. That's like
100%.
Go. That's the kind of stuff that
be assertive.
Assertive, yeah. You gotta be assertive. You gotta hold that. There's a chain of command. You gotta respect. the people you give orders to, or the people you follow orders from, and it's like, if you can't do that, I'm gonna find someone who will. And people will say today, it's like, no, it's reflective of how we are as a society. I'm like, no. If we behave the way we are today, 200 years from now, then we do not deserve to be out in space 200 years from now.
Well, here's the statement. Now, I'm going to ask you, what do you think of the perspective of Enterprise? Because I'm thinking on the curving grade that Enterprise was, again, Archer was, he wasn't always upset, but he was just frustrated being held on by the Vulcan, council for all those years to get himself. So they were very, abrasive. Yeah. They were very abrasive. So that's where I'm thinking. They're going from that type of abrasive, like really high abrasive. And then although it's still crazy. Yeah. And now we're going to Pike's world. It's not as sharp. And now we're slowly coming down. We're now going down to like, okay, we now got to toe the line. That's how I look at it. Because if we didn't have any abrasiveness from Archer's days, from Enterprise show, then I can't reflect it.
I think Archer was pretty assertive. I think so.
He was assertive, but he was still allowed Trip to carry on in a certain way. And I can't remember security. What was the security's name again? Malcolm, but I remember his last name. Malcolm. So Malcolm would still be very assertive and speak his point. Yeah. He wants to make sure his point is clear. And it's like, again, no one would have the audacity to try to say that to Picard. Yeah. You're going to your room. Just lock him up in his room. He needs some time. He needs a timeout. He needs a timeout for the rest of the mission. Yeah. We'll come back to you later on. Yeah. That's it.
All right. So fine. So that's I hear you on that. So my thought is, okay, so we go, I'm going to play a little bit devil's advocate. So what do you think about some of the other characters, right? On Strange New Worlds, kind of Nurse Chapel, for example. Yeah. Nurse Chapel on the,
so I would say this is my third problem with Strange New Worlds. This is about Pike. Strange New Worlds was about Pike. It's about the voyages of Pike before Kirk came in.
Yes.
I feel the character, we knew Spike, we knew Spock was there, we knew Spock was there, we knew number one was there. Yep. Pike. Right. That's all. Those are the only established characters from the Pike era that was known for years. Mm-hmm. And I felt like when they created the show and they announced the lineup, it was like Dr. Mbenga was already in their TOS. Noonien Singh, who we know is going to be related to the Khan, but they're like, why are we bringing Khan in? Then there was also Chapel, who was a nurse already there. So it felt like less of a Pike show and more of a pre-Kirk show. And I was like, that's not what, it's nice, but it's not what I want. I want to see the adventures of Pike. I don't want to see the adventures of, hey, we're going to come to Kirk adventure. And then now, it's been 2 seasons? Kirk's been in 4 episodes so far. He's going to be the new episode dropping this Thursday. And I'm like, why is Kirk there a lot? I want to see Pike.
Too soon.
I signed up for Pike. I don't want to see. To me, we should only see Kirk in the final season.
There you go, 100%.
Where it's going to transition to Kirk taking over. To me, it felt like a. I was going to say rub and tug, but that's not the proper term. The rug being pulled. Excuse me.
Right. Yeah.
Different tug.
No,
so, I felt like that's what kind of annoyed me when they released the cast. And I'm just like, too many TOS connections. Keep this to Pike. I want to
too soon, too fast, too soon.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because when I saw the lineup and Nurse Chapel, I'm like, all right, Nurse Chapel. And then when she's kind of flirting a lot with Spock, I'm like, I don't remember her flirting that much with Spock in the original.
There was a connection. You could see there was a
connection,
but there was a connection.
Yeah. But I feel it's more right now on Strange New World, and the same thing. And correct me if I'm wrong. Mbaga, right? The current Doctor, wasn't he the one in Star Trek, the original one with William Shatner?
2 episodes. Yeah,
he made the 2 episodes where he made that robot that almost took over the Enterprise, and he kind of went. Or am I thinking another guy?
No, that wasn't him though.
That was him. No.
Oh,
Mabenga was he was in 2 episodes where he was the on duty medical officer,
Oh,
but
okay.
he wasn't. He was only in two, and it was like very minor roles. Like he was there for
Okay.
like
mhm.
a couple scenes, and that's it.
All right. So
But
I
again, he
mean, I
was
got
like,
some of it.
yeah. But when they mentioned Mabenga, I was like, Mabenga. So I'm like, so these officers has been on the Enterprise for 15 years now, but 10 years up until, and then they're still serving for another 10 or 15 years afterwards. I was like, so they've been on the Enterprise 20, 25 years now. I'm like, again,
Yeah, that
I'm like,
a
You
little
know.
stretch. It's a little stretch. It's a
it
little
is true.
stretch. Yeah, I will agree that I was expecting this to be more of a Pike show,
Yeah,
and getting any Kirknisms should have been like season on towards the end. Like
yeah,
they made a reference like saying like when we saw Kirk for the last episode, the two previous episodes,
hmm,
saying when he was in the chair later on at his trial. They said, yeah, I remember the first time I met Pike was when he became fleet captain.
yeah,
They made sure to say that, that was perfect. Okay, that's the first time he comes in. Great. Maybe we should have held it on a little bit, but now it kind of goes back to what Barry was saying, that if Pike is supposed to be his mentor, he's
yeah,
going to have to be there more often for to build that type of, relationship and become a solid mentor than just being like, oh, that's just a professor that I met at the academy.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's a trade off in that sense that you can understand why they probably are bringing Kurt in this early,
yeah,
but again,
Yeah. Like I mean,
going back to we're not
yeah,
seeing
it
the
kind of
connection as yet.
loses some of
So
its
yeah,
flavor. Like I mean, when I saw the Enterprise
mm,
show up on Discovery,
yeah,
okay, when you saw the Enterprise, like, oh, it's like we got to look for Spock. Okay, I was all into that storyline. And
yeah,
I think that was cool. At least
yeah,
we saw the ship. We didn't have to see anybody related to it. We just saw the ship, and that was good
yeah,
enough, I think, for fans. So a little bit too much, I think, too soon on certain aspects. I know people
yeah,
love the show, and I mean, I like it too. I just, as you put it, I want more. Like I've now learned everything about every other character on there, and every time
yeah,
I see the captain, he's never in his chair. He's always
yeah,
in his quarters making food.
yeah.
I don't really recall. Name the last time you saw, Pike sitting in the captain's chair.
He's there, but
Season
I
two.
mean, not as often as
not as
he
often as
should
you
be.
should.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Oh
Like
man.
again, he's too leisurely, which is like it's
Mhm.
nice, but at the same time, it's like, bro, like I want to see Pike. I want to see why Pike is Pike. Like
We've heard
not,
about him.
yeah,
Star
for
Trek's been
years,
around.
years
Okay.
since the
Right.
beginning.
From day one. I mean, the
Yeah,
pilot season dealt with pilot
yeah,
episode.
yeah,
All right, let's get full circle with that.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. So look, this has been a fun. I mean, I'm excited still about the crossover episode, and I'm glad we touched on some of this Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I
hmm,
know,
Mhm.
I know we're gonna wrap this up real quick, but I know what I'm looking forward to. Hopefully, that will bring back some of that chain of command and seriousness. Is
yeah,
the new show, which is going to be Section 31 or
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
You
That's
don't
another
seem too
one
happy
where
for
I'm
that one.
just like,
Uh,
I was. Well, it was supposed to be a series, and I guess
Yes.
Michelle got too popular. She like it was a career resurgence, and then she got like after she left the show. Well, not left, but while she was on the show, like she had a major career resurgence, and then she's in like she got the her Oscar nom. When she
Yeah.
got her Oscar
mhm.
nom, I was like,
Yeah, that was it.
no, that girl's
Gone.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not getting that
Don't look
series.
for her. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure because of that, now they're like, okay, scrap the series, just make it a movie, just so we could get her while the iron is hot.
Yes.
100%.
And then she could go off and do her own thing. But again, Section 31 to me, that's one of those less is more, less is more.
Mm.
And now it's become like Section 31, the biggest unkept secret in the alpha and beta quadrants, because everyone knows about Section 31 now. And I'm like
100%.
how
Like,
does
how?
how
How
is,
is that?
how are you guys a secret if everybody knows about it?
It's
And
supposed
I'm
to be
like,
Black Ops, right?
super
100%.
Black Ops, but
And I don't know
again,
what the storylines would be, but that's why I'm curious. It's like one, it's got to have that chain of command. But we know with Michelle Yeoh's character, she's
yeah,
kind of like bucked the system.
Yeah.
She pushes back.
So-
So it's gonna be interesting to see how that comes across. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know what to expect from it. I mean, I know it's gonna be super, Black Ops, and it's interesting that they're actually gonna do a Black Ops version of the Federation, where the Federation is supposed to be like the UN. They're all supposed to be peacekeepers and explorers, and all of a sudden now we're hearing they have a Black Ops division.
Yeah.
Listen, it makes you
knew
think and realize.
Khan, but you guys said the whole Khan thing, and you stopped that how many years ago, and now you still kind of carried on with a Black Ops division.
Well, probably because of that, realize we need a Black Ops. We need someone to get their hands dirty. That the Federation will never be allowed. They're the poster boys. They're the face of the whole quadrant. They can't look bad. So we need someone to actually be able to do all the dirt and everything along that line.
Exactly.
So what it would be interesting is that if they tie in a lot of stories, clues that we've had of certain wars or certain big wars, Section was in there, but no one knew that Section 13 was in there. That would be the way to actually have some type of storyline. That if you do some type of flashback, or if you do a series, we're going to talk about one particular war. This is what built up to it. And then this episode after, okay, everybody's back to normal. Okay, cool. We're just waiting for another, and then we fade off. And then next season, another big war that's planning to come up. 13 is in the background, being the ghost, aka Manga in the recent episode, who just basically was just like just taking out people. Like,
Super
you're the
soldier.
ghost of. Oh my gosh, that was wow. That was wow.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, and it's true because
what's
a
your
lot
last
of people...
words here, Andrew? What's your last words, last thoughts here? What's going on in your head there with
I hope the movie is good. I hope the movie kind of puts an end, quote unquote, to Section 31, where it's kind of like whatever happens in the movie. I hope they go, we gotta lay low for a while, and therefore that will carry over to Deep Space Nine. So therefore, people know, oh, that's why they went quiet. That's why we never heard of them for.
That's perfect. That's exactly it. That would make sense. We need a reason to just basically go back on the cover. We're a little bit too much in the light. Yeah. It's like what are the time cops or what is
TVA?
Not the TVA, no, but in Star Trek they have
temporal investigations.
The temporal investigation.
Right. Yeah.
Basically, you don't really hear about them until you do mess up something. They come out of nowhere.
Exactly.
Section has to be just like that again. You're a rumor. I think I heard of you before. So we need to do something to say, SHIELD went under. It blew up, realizing SHIELD is still there. Hydra. That kind of scenario.
Exactly.
Oh man, I love it. Well, Andrew, we're going to wrap this episode up. Thank you so much for joining us once again. And we're going to bring you back. We're going to go and we're going to do a good episode on just Perk and his whole original.
Dude, we've barely begun.
Exactly. Next time we're jumping in just with Perk, and that's it.
There are so many more things we could have talked about.
Put me in, coach.
Multiple episodes. I promise we're gonna bring you back a lot sooner for sure. I promise you that. So Rod, any last words before we wrap it up?
Listen, everyone, I hope you enjoyed yourself with what we were talking about. Again, Strange New World, the special crossover episode. We're talking about Pike, Kurt. We just went nice. We just went and just gave a nice Russian roulette of different, things to talk among yourselves. Hope you enjoyed it, and make sure you, again, share, tell a friend. Make sure they come back and follow this particular episode. They're going to like what they heard. If you liked it, let them know. Let's go.
Absolutely. As I said, thank you once again, Andrew, for jumping on the Iconist podcast. As I always say, this whole world was started with a pencil, a piece of paper, and lots of imagination. But in today's episode, in light of that, it's going to be a little bit different. Right now, what I'm going to say is, one, you got to check out this other station that I found on YouTube. It's called Mr. Trek. This guy is making a Enterprise. It's going to be about 20 feet long out of cardboard, and he's using miniature figures, and he says it's going to take about 5 years. So look out, Mr. Trek. Every episode he drops something on there. It's amazing. And on that note, live long and prosper. This has been the Iconist Podcast.